Hello friends, today we are once again back with our paper CC-101. As you know, in this paper I have talked about 5 different essays in the unit number 4, and then in the last lecture I started with second unit, which is about 2 different essays. One is The Religion of the Forest by Rabindranath Tagore, and the second one is Shakespeare's Sister by Virginia Woolf. So I started with The Religion of the Forest by Rabindranath Tagore in my last YouTube video. I hope you have seen that video. In that video, I tried to introduce you with Guruvar Rabindranath Tagore. Most of us know the name Rabindranath Tagore, but there are certain details about Guruvar Rabindranath Tagore which we will need to know about him. Guruvar Rabindranath Tagore has been a poet, a short story writer, a musician, a philosopher, and whatnot. We need to understand him in a better way. Today, I am going to talk about his essay, The Religion of the Forest. I hope you will be able to understand this. I would like to tell you at this juncture that these 2 essays have entered the syllabus newly this year. Therefore, don't try to search for ready-made material on these books or on these essays rather. It would be better you pay attention to these lectures and then follow the material that I provide to you through the college website and application. It will help you a lot. And always remember that there is nothing better than the hard work. So don't think of adopting any shortcuts for these essays or any unit related to this paper or any other paper. So let's begin with our discussion on the religion of the forest. So this is the first slide on the religion of the forest, and I want you to pay your attention to the discussion of the essay. The first line on this slide, the essay depicts the author's views on the relationship of an individual being with that of a forest and nature. Now, if you pay your attention to the title of the essay, you will have some idea about the essay. The religion of the forest. Forest, the jungles, Vanasrushti. And what is the dharma, the religion of this forest? Here, let me tell you, dharma does not stand for any religion that we recognize as Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, or any other. No. Dharma, that is, the religion stands for the character, the duty, the responsibility, the attitude of the forest. And this essay mainly focuses on the author Rabindranath Tagore's views on the relationship between a human being, an individual being stands for a human being, with that of forest and nature. So Guruvar Rabindranath Tagore is trying to discuss how a human being and the nature around, the forest around, are related to each other. What these forests and nature try to tell us or convey us. Do they give us any message? Do they teach us anything related to our life? Let's see what Rabindranath Tagore has said in this essay. He says, the forests are sources of life and they are the storehouse of biodiversity. Now, we human beings are very self centered. We always think that if there are 4 members in my family, we need to take care of these 4 members only. And if there is more important thing, then we put our own self at the center, the others are secondary. Now, if we compare the vegetation in the forest, the trees, the plants, the flowers, etc., then we find that the forests are the storehouses of biodiversity. There are different, diverse types of plants, trees, etc. And even then, we never find any kind of conflict taking place among the trees or plants or flowers in a jungle. So these, as Rabindranath Tagore says, these forests are sources of life. And this is something that we have learned while our primary and secondary education, that the trees are also animate things, sajiv है. And these animate trees, these forests are full of life, and they are the storehouses. These jungles are the storehouses of biodiversity. Biodiversity means different types of vegetations, trees, plants, flowers, whales, etc. So there you don't find any kind of conflict taking place in the jungles, even for oxygen, even for sunlight, even for space, anything. On the contrary, we find that there are some plants which grow on other trees, and they survive quite comfortably. Both the tree and the plants taking the help of the tree, both of them survive quite happily, quite comfortably. So in this way, Tagore wants to say that there is a lot of variety, diversity of trees, vegetation, plants in the jungle, and we find different forms of life being nurtured in these forests. The biodiversity of the forest teaches us lessons of democracy, of living, L-E-A-V-I-N-G, living space for others while drawing sustenance from the common web of life. Now, this is a very important thing that we human beings need to understand. The jungles in our present times, they are just encroached by human beings. They are getting smaller and smaller. The trees are never fighting for the space. They never complain to human beings that you are taking away our space. On the contrary, though there are a number of different trees and plants and other vegetation, this biodiversity of forest teaches us lessons of democracy. લોકશાહી, જ્યારે આપણે વાત થાય છે અને ભારતના બંધારણની વાત કરીએ છીએ ત્યારે કે છે ભારત એક લોકશાહી દેશ છે, અને પછી લોકશાહીની વ્યાખ્યા આપીએ છીએ. લોકશાહીમાં ધર્મનિરપેક્ષતાની વ્યાખ્યા આવે છે. ધર્મનિરપેક્ષતા ક્યાં જોવાની? વાર તહેવારે કોઈ એક કે બીજા કારણે કોઈ પણ મુદ્દા ઉપર જુદા જુદા ધર્મના લોકો એકબીજા ઉપર શાબ્દિક શારીરિક હુમલા કરતા હોય છે. Where is democracy? In democracy, everybody has got equal right to survive, and that survival is not just for the life. A man can express himself, a man can live according to his choice, and there are a number of things that he can do with full freedom. There is one very good poem, Heaven of Freedom by Rabindranath Tagore, and in that one he thought of a free country, India, before some 30 years of the independence. Now that is the dream of a free country, a democratic country. Though we have well written constitution of democracy, human beings and especially we Indians are failing to follow the rules of democracy. On the contrary, if you look at the jungles, if you look at the forest teaches us lessons of democracy, because in a forest no big tree tells that the other plant has any right to grow on that plain, that land. No other tree or plant obstructs the way of growth of any other tree or plant. Every tree, every plant, every smallest form of vegetation has got equal right of growth. So the forests are the best examples of democracy. જંગલો એ લોકશાહીનું ઉત્તમ ઉદાહરણ છે, કારણ કે જંગલમાં કોઈ એક વૃક્ષ બીજા કોઈ વૃક્ષ કે છોડને એના ઉછરવાથી રોકવાનો પ્રયાસ કરતો નથી. That is the true spirit of democracy. And moreover, of leaving space for others while drawing sustenance from the common web of life. Every tree leaves some space for others, other trees, other plants, for their growth, which does not happen among the human societies. And though there is a limited space, limited land for their birth and growth, they try to survive, they try to support each other, they try to survive in a best possible way, and they try to sustain themselves within that common web of life. So this shows how the trees live, how the plants, how the flowers live quite amicably with each other, without disturbing, without obstructing others. And this is what Rabindranath Tagore says we need to understand. We human beings need to understand. Let's move to the second slide. In this essay, in his essay Tapovan, Tagore writes one line, and look at that line. He says, Indian civilization has been distinctive in locating its source of regeneration, material and intellectual, in the forest, not the city. This is very important. He says, Indian civilization, the Indian society has been distinctive in locating its source of regeneration. We are regenerating ourselves. We are growing. We are expanding materially. We are expanding intellectually. But where do we get the inspiration? Where do we get the source for this regeneration from? from the forest. These forests give us some source of regeneration. They help us grow materially and intellectually. And we people believe, and we people always try to go to the cities. In fact, the cities don't give us anything. According to Rabindranath Tagore, it is the forest that help us develop as human beings, help us develop materially and intellectually. So the forest help us regenerate ourselves. The peace of the forest has helped the intellectual evolution of man. And even today we see, after a month or two, we wish to go to a picnic. Why do we go to a picnic? And where do we go to a picnic? Has anybody gone to a picnic to a big city? ચલો ભાઈ આજે અમદાવાદના સીજી રોડ પર કે એસજી રોડ પર ફરવા જઈએ. No, we don't. We never go to the cities for our recreation, for our peace. If we want peace, we would like to go to a picnic, and where would we go? We would go to a stream, Iqbalgarh. There is a river, or we would go to some Taranga Hill or places like places where we find good peaceful atmosphere. If there is a good ashram, or there is some jungle around, many of the people go to that the peace of forest has helped the intellectual evolution of man. Now, intellectual evolution stands for intellectual growth. બૌદ્ધિક વિકાસની વાત છે, બૌદ્ધિક ઉત્ક્રાંતિની વાત છે. But from where do we get this intellectual evolution? According to Rabindranath Tagore, through the peace. And where do we get the peace? We get the peace from forest. And you know this. Whenever we want to go to a picnic, we always search for an area where there are streams, where there are green areas, jungles, peaceful things. Why don't we go to SG highway or CG highway of Ahmedabad for picnic? We never do that, because we know that if we want to go to a picnic, we want to get some peace, and peace can be experienced only in the lap of nature, that is in the forest. We never think of city or urban areas. So peace of forest is a very good source of regeneration. It regenerates human beings, and it helps a person grow intellectually. The culture of the forest has fueled culture of Indian society. We are lucky this way. Being Indians, we know that in India we have come down to this system of education from those old system of rishis and shishyas in our ancient history. કૃષ્ણની અને સુદામાની વાત આવે એટલે સાંદીપની ઋષિની વાત આવે. પાંડવો અને કૌરવોની વાત આવે એટલે ગુરુ દ્રોણની વાત આવે. So these great gurus of the past, they never built very big institutes for the teaching, for the education of their students. No, they always taught these students The students may be belonging to the family of a king. He or she may be a prince or princess. But if there is a student, the student will have to stay with the guru, with the rishi, doing all the works of household of the rishi. But those things, those ways of teaching, and those ways of surviving in the jungles, in the forest with the family of the rishi, they were very useful. They were maybe we can say they were providing different ways of education. And our culture has derived from that old days of ancient system of education. So culture of the forest has been very much there in Indian life, Indian society, and this Indian culture of forest has fueled culture of Indian society. We have never been away from the forest, and that touch with the forest, that inspiration of the forest, and that inspiration of the past culture has come down to our present society. It has helped our culture of the present times. It has fueled means ઈંધણ પૂરું પાડ્યું છે, fueled the culture of Indian society even today. The culture of the forest has been influenced by the diverse process. Now, what do we mean by culture of the forest? Jungle-ni Sanskriti. What do we mean by this culture of the forest? As I told you in the earlier slide, that in a forest, all the trees, all the plants, all the flowers, all the forms of vegetation, they live quite comfortably with each other. There is no quarrel or fight for space, oxygen, sunlight, or anything else. They sustain themselves in the same atmosphere. They try to be helpful to the other forms of vegetation if there is any necessity. So this culture of the forest has been influenced by the diverse processes varying from species to species, from season to season, in sight and sound and smell of renewal of life. There are different species of vegetation. There are different forms of trees and vegetation taking place in different seasons. When there is one season, there will be different kind of plants or flowers coming up. When the season changes, the jungles will get a different form. There will be different vegetation, different plants, and different colors, different smells, different sounds. But though there is so much of diversity, they will never crush each other. They will never try to obstruct the growth of each other. And this culture of living quite peacefully and with each other, this is the culture of the forest. And this culture of the forest has been influenced by the diverse processes, because when you look at a jungle is full of different happenings, and these different things taking place, they form a culture of the forest. The unifying principle of life in diversity thus became the principle of Indian civilization. Though these different forms of vegetation, જુદા જુદા પ્રકારની જે વનસ્પતિઓ છે, વૃક્ષો છે, છોડ છે, બધા એકબીજા સાથે જોડાઈને એક કુટુંબની જેમ રહી શકે છે. So this unifying principle of life, they are living. They are diverse type of things, diverse type of plants, trees, etc. And even then they are living in a quite unifying way. And thus this unifying quality of the jungles, unifying principle of life in diversity in the jungle, it has become the principle of Indian civilization, because we have always been near to the jungles, near to the forests, and the forests have taught Indian civilization how we can live together, though we belong to different religions, though we belong to different caste, creed, class, etc. There are ways of living together, and these ways of living together without any kind of conflict have been taught to us by the forest, or we can say the forest, the culture of the forest, the behavior of the forest, the attitude of the forest teaches human beings how how a society, a cultured society, can, with a diverse kind of people, can live quite peacefully. This unity in diversity is the basis of both ecological sustainability and democracy. Now, ecological sustainability, સામૂહિક પરિસ્થિતિનું સહજીવન. તો ઇકોલોજીકલ સસ્ટેનેબિલિટી એટલે કે પરિસ્થિતિને લઈને જે સહજીવન છે તે, અને ડેમોક્રેસી, લોકશાહી, આ બંનેનો જો કોઈક પાયો હોય તો એ છે યુનિટી ઇન ડાયવર્સિટી. એન્ડ રવિન્દ્રનાથ ટેગોર has said that diversity, વિવિધતા, without unity, જો સમાજમાં એકતા ના હોય, વિવિધતા ભલે હોય, જેમ આપણા દેશમાં છે વિવિધતા હોય, પણ જો એકતા ના હોય તો ડાયવર્સિટી વિધાઉટ યુનિટી becomes the source of conflict and contest, because a society will be divided into different smaller groups, and they will be struggling with each other for their survival. So in that way, diversity without unity will lead our country or our society to chaos. It will be always a cutthroat competition for survival, and this is not going to shower any kind of peace on the society. On the other side, Rabindranath Tagore says, uniformity without diversity. If there is uniformity, there is a smaller group, united group, but the strength of that group is very small. So uniformity without diversity, that means if different diverse people don't come together and there are smaller groups with unity or uniformity, it becomes the ground for external control. This is something that has happened in our history, in Indian history. નાના નાના રાજાઓ રજવાડાઓ હતા, અને એટલે જ બહારથી આવેલા આક્રમણખોરો એ ભારતના રાજાઓ ઉપર પોતાના શાસન જમાવી દીધા. So uniformity without diversity becomes the ground for external control. Somebody powerful from outside come to us and control our land. So this is how Rabindranath Tagore says diversity without unity cannot help anything. Same way, uniformity without diversity is also useless. This is true of both nature and culture. It's not that Rabindranath Tagore is talking about only the forest, only the nature. No. He says whatever is the true or applicable to the nature, whatever is applicable to the forest, the same thing, same rules are applicable to the human society, human civilization. Because our human civilization can only grow with the help of uniformity, with the help of unity. If there is no unity, then there are rare chances of growth together and ecological sustainability. This is true of both nature and culture. Then we go to the next line. In Tagore's writings, the forest was not just the source of knowledge and freedom. It was the source of beauty and joy, of art and aesthetics, of harmony and perfection. It symbolized the universe. So, forests have a symbolic meaning. forest was not just the source of knowledge and freedom. People interpret this way, that forests give you a feeling of freedom. And as we talked earlier, forests are the sources of knowledge. But according to Tagore, just knowledge and freedom are not the pleasant outcomes of forest, pleasant benefits that we get from forest. Along with these two, forests are also the source of beauty and joy. When you go to a jungle, when you go to a forest, you can experience different forms of beauty. That beauty can be in the form of vegetation, plants, flowers, etc. That beauty can be in the form of different smell, that can be in the form of different types of birds, different types of animals, and insects and butterflies and whatnot. So in that way, the forests are sources of beauty, and whenever you experience beauty of any type, any kind, you are naturally going to enjoy it. So this is what Rabindranath Tagore says. They are sources of knowledge, they are sources of freedom, they are sources of beauty, they are sources of joy, they are sources of art and aesthetics. Why do the painters wish to go to the jungles, wish to go to the forest? Why do the musicians wish to go to the lap of nature? Why do the poets go to the lap of nature? Because they think that forest or jungle or any natural area is a place where they can get the inspiration for their art. So we have to interpret this way, that forests are the sources of art, forests are the sources of aesthetics, uh, right? Aesthetics also means kalanu saundarya. So this is how these forests are sources of harmony and perfection as well. Harmony, we have been talking today. The whole lot of different plants, trees, flowers, etc., they live in harmony. We have never heard that a tree tried to kill a plant, or a plant tried to kill a tree, or a flower, or anything else. No, we never we never hear such kind of incidents, because all these vegetations live in harmony, live in perfection. So these forests are not just a small forest in a smaller area. No, they are, we can say, universe in miniature. They are, we can interpret to be universe in a smaller form. એક આખા વિશ્વનું પ્રતિકાત્મક સિમ્બોલિક સ્વરૂપ છે એ જંગલ. In the religion of the forest, the poet says, our attitude of mind guides our attempts to establish relations with the universe, either by conquest or by union, either through the cultivation of power or through that of sympathy. This is also one message from the forest. In the forest, no big tree tries to bully a smaller tree. They don't capture the space from those smaller trees, because that is an aggressive and unacceptable way of establishing the control. The poet says, our attitude of mind, we have to follow the forest and develop our attitude of mind by taking some inspiration from the forest, because it is the attitude of the mind that results into a situation. So attitude of mind guides our attempts to establish relations with the universe. Now we are talking this with reference to the society. A human being goes to the society, if a student goes to a college, a teacher goes to a college, or a businessman goes to the market, then he will have to establish a kind of relationship with the different people around. Now what he is supposed to do is that he will have to establish a good relationship with the people around, an amicable relationship with the people around. If he tries to win everybody, he tries to prove that he is more powerful than the other people and win all those people by his might, by his power, then he will get the power, he will get the control. Okay, but there will not be any good relationship with that boy or that person and the other people of the society. So, the poet says, attitude of mind guides our attempts to establish relations with the universe either by conquest or by union. So, it depends on you. તમારે નક્કી કરવાનું છે કે તમારે સમાજ સાથે કયો સંબંધ બનાવવો છે. એક જોડાણનો, એક તાલમેલનો, એક મિત્રતાનો, કે પછી એક બોસનો, એક શક્તિશાળી વ્યક્તિ તરીકેનો. સંબંધ તો એ પણ બનશે કે જ્યાં એક વ્યક્તિ હુકમ ચલાવે છે, અન્ય લોકો તેને સાંભળે છે. પણ એના કરતાં જો તમારો સંબંધ કોઈની સાથે યુનિયનનો હશે, જોડાણનો હશે, તો અને એ જોડાણના સંબંધનું ઉદાહરણ આપણે જંગલોમાં જોઈએ છે, તો એ વ્યક્તિ માટે એક સારું જીવન પ્રાપ્ત થઈ શકે. તો he says, either by conquest, either you just win them powerfully, become victorious over the other people, or unite themselves with love, unite yourself with them with love, either through the cultivation of power, either you can exert power or you can cultivate power, you can show that you are more powerful, you are mighty, or through that of sympathy, or establish a relationship with sympathy, સહાનુભૂતિ. તો આમ સહાનુભૂતિના સંબંધથી કે જે જંગલ પાસેથી આપણને પ્રેરણા મળે છે, આપણે સમાજમાં સારું જીવન જીવી શકીએ છીએ. પણ જો કોઈની ઉપર શક્તિબળનો કે બળનો પ્રયોગ કરીને કાબુ જમાવવાનો પ્રયાસ કરીએ છીએ તો સંબંધ તો બને છે પણ ત્યાં વિશ્વાસ નથી હોતો. તો this is what Rabindranath Tagore tries to tell us through this essay. The essay is still not over. હજી એસેની ચર્ચા બાકી છે, પણ આ યુટ્યુબ વિડીયોની સમય મર્યાદાને ધ્યાનમાં લઈને હું અહીં આ યુટ્યુબ વિડીયો અહીંયા પૂરું કરું છું. Next time we shall continue from the next slide onwards. I hope you have been able to understand the ideas of Rabindranath Tagore, and I have made an humble attempt to convey the ideas of Rabindranath Tagore to you. Thank you.